the world. I could feel all this death.
Everything they've built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
West Virginia this morning is bracing for more rain after historic flooding killed at least 25 people. Those floods in the past week swamped hundreds of homes as well as cars and roads. The National Weather Service says an event like this only happens once in 1,000 years. Chris Van Cleve is in Clendenin, West Virginia, where a community lost everything. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. This is a scene you see entirely too often here in West Virginia. There used to be 3 homes here. Right now, just one is sort of still standing. The house over here, some of it ended up here. The rest of it sucked into the creek here, ended up about a quarter mile away. Damage assessment teams will be out across the state to try to get a sense for the scope of this damage. That, as the entire region is under a flash flood watch because more rain is coming to West Virginia.
I don't think reality's even set in yet.
This is what reality in Clendenin, West Virginia looks like. Melissa and several generations of the Sanders family lived side by side, right in the path of the rain-swollen Jackson Creek.
My mother-in-law's house is ruined. My brother-in-law's house is ruined. My other brother-in-law's house washed away.
Bill Sanders did not make it out of one of those houses. Diana is his widow.
37 years right here with that man. This was my life. Everything's gone. But I feel him here.
The damage from Thursday's flooding is far worse than first thought. Over 500 homes in one county alone have been badly damaged or destroyed. In Clendenin, at least 100 are gone. Crews have been working around the clock to clear debris and get the lights back on, as volunteers have brought food and supplies to those in need. Nearly 100 roads remain closed. Soldiers and first responders have been going door to door in hard-hit areas. A woman desperate to rescue a litter of puppies trapped for days in this house flagged down the National Guard. First out of the house is Private First Class Jay Meadows, carrying a scared and hungry pit bull puppy through the waist-deep water.
You just got rescued, baby.
Inside that box, 5 baby Pomeranian Chihuahuas and their mom close behind. Finally,
oh, they got Allie, thank God.
Allie the pit bull, all carried to safety. President Obama has declared this a disaster area. That means federal funds from FEMA are available to help with the rebuilding and recovery.
Tremors felt in the southern parts of Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in China. No casualties have been reported so far. And the earthquake hit at a depth of 10 kilometers. Workers in a mine in the Kyzyusu Kyrgyz Autonomous Prefecture felt the tremor. A wall at a local police station collapsed. 2 passenger trains in the area were suspended as railway authorities checked the tracks and communication equipment for damage. The chief of the Seismological Bureau in the prefecture said they were closely watching the situation and firefighters are on standby.
Now to the summer hazard that can send beachgoers scrambling for cover: surprise lightning. Some friends walking along the sand in Daytona Beach, Florida, thought they were in the clear. The sun shining on them when a deadly bolt struck. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez with more.
Lightning struck people at 3200 south the beach.
Lightning striking on this Florida beach, killing 1 person, leaving 2 others injured.
It was just a loud explosion and like a flash, and my head felt like it was gonna explode off the top of my head.
Anna Nicorak says she was walking along Daytona Beach shores with a friend Saturday, never imagining she could be hit.
We were in the sunny part. The storm was behind us.
That can be very deceiving to people. It starts to clear up, the sun starts to come out, people want to just get back out there in the water.
Lightning strikes in the U.S. now claiming the lives of 7 people so far in 2016, and 31 people on average each year. First responders warning, if you hear thunder, presume lightning is nearby and take cover.
Start heading for your car or a nearby building. Get away from the objects that are more conductive.
Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, New York.
Marine life and ship traffic make the ocean a noisy place, but you've never heard this strange sound. Scientists call it the Rossby whistle. They discovered it's caused when ocean water circulating around the Earth pours in and out of the Caribbean Sea, altering the gravity field. It can't be heard by humans, but the eerie A-flat is so powerful, satellites can pick it up in space.
Robert Smithson's Spiral Jetty in Utah is seen as a key so-called earthwork by art historians, a creation that escapes the confines of the art gallery and is built directly in nature. But most of the time it shouldn't be seen at all. Built during drought in 1970, it lay submerged for some 3 decades, but it's expected to be on show now for some time. Its location is the Great Salt Lake in Utah, the largest salt lake in the Western Hemisphere. The bison roam on once submerged lake bed. The lake has receded 48% since 1847 as a result of increased water use.
There's trade-offs. You know, you get some more water and you grow more crops, or you're able to have a big, massive lawn in front of your house and water it all the time.
But you lose all the birds and you get toxic dust storms.
Right.
Some 7.5 million birds from 257 species use the lake each year, both for breeding and migration. But newly formed natural causeways are leading predators to the nesting grounds.
So that's Egg Island.
That's Egg Island, yes.
But it's not an island anymore.
It's not an island.
There aren't many stops in the western United States that birds can use during their southward migration to fatten up on brine shrimp and abundant insects.
They found us.
But although loved by birds, this closed basin of water is less treasured by locals.
People don't seem that bothered about the disappearing lake.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably the case. Most of the people in northern Utah view water that travels to Great Salt Lake as wasted, and it's not able to be used after it's here.
The lake formed through precipitation and rivers fed by melting mountain snow. But more and more water is being diverted before it reaches here. A vicious cycle is underway.
We depend on Great Salt Lake to provide more snowpack. Most of our storms that come in over the valley here come over from the southwest or the northwest and pick up additional energy and dump more snow into our mountains. And our snowpack is greatly dependent on Great Salt Lake. So without the lake, snowpack is going to be lower.
The economic value of the lake is estimated at $1.32 billion a year, which includes revenue from lakeside recreation, mineral excavation, and the brine shrimp industry. Some 1,400 square kilometers of lakebed, though, are now exposed. Toxic minerals swirl in the dust and blow into nearby Salt Lake City. Yet plans have been drawn up for the diversion of more water to support the state's growing population. Shihab Rattansi, Al Jazeera, the Great Salt Lake, Utah.
Officials are investigating a mysterious sheen on Lake Ontario. A U.S. Coast Guard crew first noticed it on Sunday. It's located near the Fitzpatrick Nuclear Power Plant in Oswego County, about 40 miles north of Syracuse. The Coast Guard has set up a temporary 2-mile safety zone in the water near the plant. Officials have taken samples, but still no word on the cause. The Fitzpatrick Nuclear Power Plant has been in operation since 1975, but is slated to shut down in January. I'm Danielle Banks, The Weather Channel.
Deep in the heart of Kentucky, a man is building an ark. He doesn't think he's the new Noah, but he does think the Bible story may in fact be factual, and he wants to open a theme park to make the case. However, is there any real science here, and should taxpayers be funding this thing? Here's ABC's David Wright.
It's every kid's favorite Bible story, Genesis chapters 6 to 9, the story of Noah and the flood, and the ark he built to save all the animals 2 by 2. An apocalypse rendered kid-friendly for Sunday school.
I'm Father Noah, captain of this bark.
This story, like so many stories in the Bible, has big elemental things that still leave questions in the world today.
After Jesus and Moses, Noah probably has more Hollywood blockbusters,
Raise the ramp, lads!
than anyone else in the Bible, which is why we found ourselves in an unlikely place.
So we are in Williamstown, Kentucky. Population, not much by the looks of things. And where we're headed is supposed to be right up here.
We turn a corner and lo and behold,
there she blows.
Off in the distance is a large wooden ship still under construction.
Oh my gosh.
Noah's Ark, right here in the American South.
510 feet long, 85 feet wide, 51 feet high.
The dimensions set out in the Bible, cubit by cubit. Ken Ham is the Noah of this ark.
It's huge. The closer you get, it just looms.
It gets bigger and bigger.
Ham is no Old Testament prophet. His mission, to turn this Bible story into a world-class theme park, straight out of the Old Testament, and then some.
The message that we have, it's making the Bible come alive. Really, by building Noah's Ark, we're saying, this really happened. This is plausible.
When finished, Ham says, his ark will be 7 stories tall and a football field and a half long, the largest timber frame structure in the world. Among the construction workers building the ark, Amish carpenters.
You kind of looked apart a little bit.
The artists creating the exhibits are believers, too. The designers are tasked with creating 2 of every kind, lifelike creatures, even if you might not remember them from Sunday school.
This is not one that I recognize.
Yeah. Okay, so what is
this?
This
kind of an abominable snowman?
This is a Nisodon.
What are you making here?
This is the hyena kind.
This would be the grandparent of modern apes.
Ham calls his ministry Answers in Genesis. His creation museum, a few miles away, attracts nearly 500,000 visitors a year, teaching a young earth theory of creation. That God created the earth in 6 days, and that on the 7th day he rested, just like it says in Genesis. One problem with that approach: where exactly do dinosaurs fit in?
Do you believe that Noah took one of these onto the ark?
Well, the Bible says Noah took 2 of each kind.
It seems like if you took one of those on board, everything else might as well stay home.
If you ask me if Ken Ham's creation model is viable, I say no.
That concept is an immediate deal breaker for Bill Nye the Science Guy, who says dinosaurs died out long before humans came along.
Off by millions and millions and millions of years. And to teach young people, were Allosauruses really on the ark? No, Allosauruses could not be on any boat anybody built 5,000 years ago.
Bottom line, Nye dismisses Ham's creationist exhibits as biblical propaganda. But Ham isn't alone in believing the Noah story could well be based in fact.
Judgment is coming, my friend.
Almost every major religion has a flood story. And in this era of rising oceans and global warming, respected scientists search for evidence of an ancient flood, among them underwater archaeologist Bob Ballard.
It's not a crazy thing to think that the flood stories of the various cultures, including ours, are based upon true cataclysmic events.
It's why from the bottom of the sea to the top of Mount Ararat, relic hunters search for wreckage of the ark described in Genesis.
It was first written down about 3,000 years ago. That is 30 centuries, and we're still talking about it today.
Author Bruce Feiler follows the footsteps of relic hunters in his PBS series Walking the Bible.
Why? Because it gets at our deepest fears and our hopes and our desires.
But for Ham, the biblical story isn't just a metaphor or a cautionary tale. He sees it as fact, and so does everyone who works for him. It's actually part of the hiring policy. To work on the Ark Encounter, job applicants have to sign a strict statement of faith, agreeing, for instance, that the Great Flood of Genesis was an actual historic event worldwide in its extent and effect. They also have to be straight, anti-abortion, and Christian.
They have to be Christian, yes.
Why? I mean, the people who believe in the book of Genesis also include Jews and Muslims, for that matter. Why couldn't they?
Well, because we are a Christian organization.
Because of the controversial hiring policy, the state of Kentucky tried to block him from receiving any public funding. But Ham took his case to the state Supreme Court and won. And now his $100 million project takes advantage of millions of dollars in tax breaks and tourism benefits.
Christians pay taxes in this world. We live in this world. We're not second-class citizens.
Ken Ham doesn't seem to be bothered by his critics. He has a mission, he says, just like Noah did.
God's word is true.
And we have these people here who are actually scoffing.
These are religious fanatics.
There's lots of people that scoff, and we get a lot of attacks by some of the aggressive secularists, and sometimes I feel a bit like Noah.
But Ham knows this ship can sail. He predicts the Ark Encounter will attract 1 to 2 million visitors in the first year alone.
It does kind of have a Field of Dreams quality. If you build it, they will come.
Yes, we really do believe that if we build it, they will come.
I'm David Wright for Nightline, aboard Noah's Ark in Williamstown, Kentucky.
Our thanks to David, and the Ark Encounter opens next month.
Some controversial comments from Pope Francis this morning. He says the Roman Catholic Church should apologize to gays for the way it has treated them. He told reporters the church has no right to judge the gay community and should show it respect. The pontiff added that the church should also seek forgiveness from other people it has marginalized, such as women and the poor. He made the comments on board the plane as he returned from Armenia.
Rainbows are everywhere in New York City this Sunday afternoon, with New Yorkers gathering on the streets to celebrate the 46th annual Pride March. This year's parade is the biggest one in history, with a record 32,000 marchers according to local reports. This year's march comes 2 weeks after the worst mass shooting in modern American history at the gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida, which killed 49 people and injured 53. The incident has put a renewed focus among American people on LGBT rights.
People should be able to be themselves and love who you love, and we're straight, but we support these folks. Absolutely.
After Orlando, it's been like really moving to see everyone here. It brought me to tears a little bit. You know, I feel like it's a big community coming together. It's been a wonderful experience.
At the parade, many participants has put up slogans urging gun control.
I think the stricter the better, but you know, that's just me. I think that we need to make sure it's like the rest of the world, you know, control to the population of people that can have a gun and know how to use it, not is necessarily like just have a gun and use it whenever they want, and that's what's a little scary.
AK-7s, 47s, those kind of rifles are not meant for regular people. I mean, it's just terrible. Nobody should be able to go into a nightclub and kill people like that. I don't know, especially people who are on some kind of watch list or something. I mean, that doesn't seem really like that should be allowed.
This morning from stabbings and other injuries at the California State Capitol. A demonstration by 2 white supremacist groups yesterday exploded into violence with counter-protesters. John Blackstone is at the scene in Sacramento, where more than 100 police officers were in position before the clashes. John, good morning.
Good morning. Well, it's calm here now, but for several hours yesterday, the state capitol was on lockdown. Employees and visitors hid in the basement as an estimated 400 counter-protesters brawled with about 30 skinheads and their sympathizers. Now, I should warn you that some of the images you're about to see are graphic. Wielding flagpoles like clubs, throwing punches and hurling objects into the air, the counter-protesters made clear to the white supremacists they were not welcome. The angry mob cornered at least 2 skinheads by the side of the Capitol building, within view of mounted police. They came out with streams of blood gushing from their heads.
I'm not aware of any arrests or detentions that have been made at this time by our officers.
The Traditionalist Worker Party, which the Southern Poverty Law Center calls a white nationalist group, along with the Golden State Skinheads, called for the rally in part to protest violence against Donald Trump supporters earlier this month in San Jose. Matthew Heimbach, a white supremacist seen here in a red Trump hat, organized the Sacramento protest. He once boasted about shoving a Black Lives Matter protester at a pro-Trump rally in March. On Sunday, one of Heimbach's allies quoted him as saying, "They got one of ours, we got 6 of them, 6 on the way to the hospital."
There are people on our side who were stabbed by the Nazis. It's clear that they clearly are not here to just speak and talk. They are here to attack us.
We have a right to be here. During the free-for-all, the counter-protesters also went after news crews and even bystanders.
Are you a white nationalist?
No, I'm not even white. I'm 25% Native American.
Toby Wenning came with his 15-year-old son. He told reporters he was a nationalist and a Republican, but not a Nazi.
And apparently they don't want anyone dissenting from their way of looking at things without resorting to violence.
To the police, it seemed like a safe interview until an accused killer saw it as an opportunity. Good evening. Brad is off tonight. That accused murderer asked to be killed as he went for a police officer's gun in an interview room at Cincinnati Homicide.
Thomas Robinson was arrested Tuesday for the murder of 17-year-old Reno Armstrong earlier this month. He'd been on the run. Local 12's Deborah Dixon shows us what happened after he was caught.
The interview by Homicide is over. Thomas Robinson is going to jail, charged with murder. Something else is on his mind. Watch what's called a target glance. Robinson glances over at his target, the police officer's gun. Robinson is handcuffed to the chair when he makes his move. Robinson is saying, "Kill me, kill me." Another officer tases him. It has no effect. Another officer tases him again. It is no longer a routine night for these 2 police officers assigned to the city's west side. Robinson had a loaded handgun and heroin in his sock when he was arrested here on Elberon Avenue after a traffic stop. He'd been tracked by the fugitive apprehension team. Those uniformed cops in the video transported him from here down to CIS to be interviewed. Criminal Investigation Section is here on Lynn Street. The run is pretty routine.
Sometimes what appears to be the routine can turn into the most dangerous situation. And that is the dynamic about this profession. And, we need to make sure we take all of the steps necessary to ensure everyone's safety as best as possible.
FOP President Sergeant Dan Hill says the video shows how quickly a routine run can become a life and death struggle. He says it also highlights officer training.
There's no doubt the training kicked in. The gun retention, where you saw both hands go to his gun, the officer that is, both hands went to the gun to secure that gun. That's a drill that we have over and over and over again in the academy. And yes, that drill helps save lives.
Robinson, charged with murdering a teen, is now also charged with the aggravated robbery of a police officer's gun. Deborah Dixon, Local 12 News.
The department is looking at ways to make the interview room safer, including putting a bolt in the floor for the handcuffs.
North Korea's vicious young dictator exploding with confidence tonight. His government's news anchor uses new, very aggressive language to project Kim Jong-un's threat.
Kim Jong-un said we now have the clear capacity to directly and realistically attack American bastards who continue to attempt to invade the Pacific.
Kim's just tested 2 medium-range ballistic missiles. One failed, but weapons monitors call the other one a partial success because the missile flew 250 miles and even briefly entered space. Saying that he can realistically attack Americans and not just the U.S. in general, that's a new level of threatening language from Kim, right?
Yes. The potential for provocation and provocative language is enhanced by Kim by the fact that now he has the technology that goes to match the language.
When Kim perfects the so-called Musadon missiles he just tested, experts say he'll be able to strike the Aleutian Islands in Alaska or U.S. military units on Guam. A U.S. intelligence official tells CNN tonight Kim's aggressive language, his celebration of this missile launch, underscores his regime's aspiration to be recognized as a nuclear power. Analysts say Kim also wants to fend off the threat he perceives from his principal enemies, who've just wrapped up a massive military exercise on his doorstep.
He wants to deter America from even threatening to intervene. He wants to deter South Korea at the same time, obviously. And to do that, he wants to be able to say, I can attack American bases, kill Americans in their beds.
Kim's also believed to be toughening up against the U.S., possibly to extort concessions, an attempt to get sanctions loosened. Although he's solidified his hold on power, analysts say if his economy gets squeezed too tightly, he won't be able to buy off North Korea's elites, and he could be threatened from within. But would this bold, impetuous young leader really provoke the Americans by striking them with a missile?
Any real provocation where he fires one missile off that's with a real warhead does some damage, he'll be decimated. Pyongyang will become essentially a bowl of glass, and I think he knows that.
Still, there are tens of thousands of Americans in Kim's line of fire. More than 28,000 American troops are deployed in South Korea. Analysts worry tonight that if Kim tries to provoke South Korea with artillery fire, maybe a commando raid, that a mishap, a miscalculation from Kim's forces could harm those Americans, then we could be in for a dangerous escalation.